I'm Bob Starr, first past president of the NIA, National Legislator Association. I would like to welcome you here today for the dedication of the State of Indiana Historical Plaque for the Hemingray Plaque Company. I see many in the audience that I know and several that I don't know. I want to thank you all for making the time to come to this event. I would also like to recognize some of you in particular. First of all, I'd like to have Roger Lucas and Darren Cochran stand up for a moment. Both Roger and Darren made initial contact with the current owners of this property back in 1993. And after several discussions, Roger and Darren were given permission to start hand excavating areas of this property in search of shards and examples of Hemingray products. I was invited by Roger and Darren in 1996 to help identify and join them in the digging effort. The three of us have been digging various portions of this property ever since, although I've not been here as often lately. Many of our conversations while out here digging during those days kind of centered around, what's going to become of this place for future generations? Are they going to know the significance of the Hemingray Glass Company, both on a local and international standing? One of the things we discussed was the National Register of Historic Places. Most of those thoughts just kind of stayed in the back of our minds during the times we were out here digging. That's until 2008 when we learned that the neighboring company here, Ball Brothers, received the State of Indiana Historical Plaque. Roger and Darren, I want to thank both of you for helping to develop the idea of the plaque and for your help with the negotiations with the landowners and for actually helping install this. We've been out here a couple times working on it, so thank you guys. Although they're not here today, I'd also like to thank the property owners, Dan and Sandy Martin, for allowing us to install this plaque on their private property and allowing us to remove a large portion of the fence here that obscured the view of this plaque, and to allow us to actually have the dedication right here today. I would like to thank Minnetrista and especially Kieran Vincent for loaning us the chairs that you're sitting on, the speaker system, which we're not using anyway, and for receiving the plaque for the last few weeks. It's been stored in their facility, and we've come down here, gotten the post, installed the post, and then Roger and I were there this morning and picked the plaque up and installed it this morning. In addition, Minnetrista also has on display in their lobby 2 showcases of various Hemingray products. One's primarily insulators, the other one has some bottles and other products of theirs on display. Karen has some passes if you'd like to see the whole museum. Otherwise, the lobby, those showcases are open to the general public, and there's no admission charge if that's all you want to see. Macedonia Avenue here is closed right now. I'd like to thank Bill Morgan, City of Muncie Historic Preservation Officer, for helping me get the street closure permit through. I basically called Bill up the day before the weekly meeting, and Bill was able to run that permit through the police department and the fire department and get the signatures I needed. Well, I got the certificate of insurance sent to him, and he was able to take the permit to the meeting and get the street closed for this hour for this event. Bill also called in a favor at the Muncie Press. We have a photographer here today. We also had a small article in Saturday's paper. So I appreciate, Bill, you doing that. Incidentally, Bill used to own Ralph Hemingway's home on East Washington Street for several years. So thank you. The State of Indiana Historical Bureau staff, Pam Bennett and Danny Pfaff, have been great to work with. In these times of financial distress and tight government budgets, Pam and Danny were able to grant our wish to have this plaque dedicated this year by helping support our schedule and help make this happen with their limited staff. I'd also like to thank my wife Stacy, who's sitting over there with my son Grant, who's 2, and you can imagine He's a handful right now. Last but not least, I want to thank the many people who donated money towards the removal of the fencing, the purchase of this plaque. The National Insulator Association accepted donations from its members as well as other interested parties. Some of those people are here today in the audience. They received a total of 62 monetary donations, totaling over $3,200. Without your donations, we would not be here today. Now, some of you have asked, why did we choose September 4th, 2011 as the dedication? Well, first of all, I'd like to give you a little history of the Hemingray Glass Company. I hope that the Hemingray Glass Company had its roots in Cincinnati, Ohio. Founders Robert Hemingray and Ralph Gray from Pittsburgh relocated to Cincinnati and started their first glass house there in April 1848. 4 years later, the partners moved their operations across the river to Covington, Kentucky, where they continued to expand their business. After the death of Ralph Gray in 1863, Robert Hemingray and his family members bought out Ralph Gray's shares and eventually incorporated in 1870. Although Hemingray produced all sorts of glassware, including bottles, fruit jars, oil lamps, tableware, and several other items, one of the products developed in Covington, the internally threaded glass insulator, would play a big role in their continued growth. Robert Hemingray received a patent on December 19, 1871 for this process of manufacture. In the early 1880s, the Covington plant was damaged by floods of the Ohio River at least twice, and it was promising to be as much as it was a lifeline to their business. An offer from the then small community of Muncie, Indiana, was one Hemingray could not refuse. After the discovery of natural gas deposits in east central Indiana in 1886, many communities developed committees. Muncie was no exception. On December 10, 1887, Robert Hemingray signed an agreement with the Manufacturers Guarantee Fund Association to relocate his factory to Muncie. In return, the Hemingray Glass Company was given $10,000, 8 acres of land, and all the free natural gas it could use. Construction of the plant began quickly, and on September 4th, 1888, 123 years ago today, Hemingray began producing glassware in Indiana for the first time. Over the next several years, business continued to grow despite setbacks, such as the complete destruction of the factory in June of 1892 by fire. Hemingway's growth was aided by the concurrent development of electrical and telephone industries. Hemingray, having already been producing threaded glass insulators for the telegraph industry, capitalized on this expanding field and became a name synonymous with glass insulators today. Following the development of the telegraph were the fields of telephone, electric street lighting, electric railway, and electric power for general business and home use. All of these emerging markets would require insulators of various types, and Hemingray was there to make them. Paying homage to their factory location, Hemingray even named the special high-voltage insulator the Muncie type, for a line in Montana, making the Muncie name well known in the electrical engineering circles. Continued plant expansions over the years to handle the orders for insulators would eventually lead to Hemingray dropping their other types of glassware and practically making insulators exclusively. By 1904, Hemingray was claiming to be the largest glass insulator manufacturer in the world. But how many insulators does it take to lay claim to being the largest? The Hemingray document from 1918, in a period of 1 year, Hemingray produced over 21.6 million insulators. Considering the number just stated, an advertisement from 1938 claiming that the 1 billionth Hemingray insulator was already in service might actually be an understatement. Hemingray even had its role in supporting the defense of our nation and others in the world. One example would be when they provided insulators to the U.S. government for use on Allied lines in Europe during World War I. By 1925, it was claimed that Hemingray exported to South Africa, Spain, the Philippines, Australia, and all of the South American continent. The large amount of insulators produced was due to the skill and expertise of a number of employees who designed machinery to make insulators faster than they could be made by hand. By the mid-1920s, this led to extra capacity, and Hemingray re-entered the bottle production lines. Hemingray, having the only unlimited Owens, Illinois bottle license to produce bottles controlled, made them a prime target for Owens, Illinois to actually purchase them. Ralph Hemigray's second generation passed away in 1920, leaving the operation to son-in-law Phil McAbee. McAbee, with no children, to inherit the family business, saw the opportunity and negotiated with Owens, Illinois to sell the plant in May of 1933. This would not spell the end of the name Hemingray, however. Owens, Illinois, mainly a producer of blown glass, had just successfully exhibited an experimental glass window block and displayed a building built of them at the 1933 Century Progress World's Fair in Chicago. The need for a plant experienced in making this pressed glassware made Hemingray a perfect fit. By April 1935, Owens, Illinois made its first shipment of this first commercially produced glass window block with the help of the old Hemingray employees. Owens, Illinois continued to operate the Muncie plant, producing insulators under the world-renowned name of Hemingray. Owens, Illinois marketed Hemingray insulators during the rural electrification program in the 1930s. They would again supply insulators to some extent during World War II, and in addition, developed a landmine made of glass. In 1960, the plant started producing television faceplates. They continued making glass blocks at this plant until March 1966. Hemingray insulator production would cease in 1967, and in June of 1972, the announcement was made to cease all production at this plant. By this time, an emerging hobby of collecting insulators had taken hold across the country. And those former workers who toiled all those years to make them got to see their work being collected like pieces of art. Today, that hobby has matured. Hemingray insulators and their other products are widely collected. Their insulators are still in service in many areas and can be found in many parts of the world. The National Insulator Association, representing this hobby, would like to honor all of those people, engineers, glass pressers, mold makers, laborers, and the like, on this Labor Day weekend, and on the 123rd anniversary of the beginning of Hemigray's operation in Indiana, by presenting this plaque. Roger and Darren, would you like to come up? I'd also like to have Earl Hyatt. Would you like to come up? Dennis Donovan. Earl's father worked for Hemingray for 50 years. Earl Jr. started here in 1942, worked here for 30 years. Dennis Donovan had a little bit shorter stint. He started here in 1963, went into military service for a few years and came back. Dennis was a pioneer insulator collector as well, and he hosted the first National Insulator Association show in nearby Newcastle in 1970. Ready?
Get the choreography first.
All right. This is side two. Side one is on the other side as well.